This is the W5FC repeater, PL110.9.
November 5, Oscar Foxtrot.
On the big 88 on Friday. No, Saturday. Duh.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha. Chaz, Clay, I'm sorry I wasn't by the radio, but I heard you.
Hey, Chaz, I was just testing in the old repeater, make sure I was getting out. Hope you're doing well.
I'm doing well, neighbor. Well, it's only, what, 7 minutes? Oh, it's only 6 minutes until Skynet. All right, I'll see you on the air.
Gotcha. You guys always do a good job. Look forward to it. See you later.
W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet?
And you better go now, because once the net starts, we are not pulling this repeater over. KI5, JSAM.
This is KF5TDS. My name is Billye, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign, break, and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.880 MHz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check into the net electronically by going to the club website, w5fc.org, look for tonight's announcement, and click on the hot link to check in. We will announce you on the air, and don't worry, if you want to check in via voice, we'll continue to do that too over air and on Echolink. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, recent astronomical discoveries, discussion topic of the evening, Was Up, space exploration and space history, Constellation of the week, space launches of the week, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and our 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. We currently have the following people checked in via w5fc.org. We have K5MCD, Cody in Dallas, over air radio. NT5TM, Tony in Bird City, over air radio. KE5ICX, Tom in Corpus Christi, Texas, on the All-Star Link. KF5JHA, Chaz and Bob the Cat, Soul Solar System, multiple modes. N5LIG, Dale, Little Elm, over air radio. AA5AH, Robert in Richardson, online YouTube. D5OZL, Brenda, in Dallas, online on Echolink. N5BB, Bill, in Irving, over-air radio. And AG9SG, sorry about that, Antonio, Dallas, over-air radio. Now let's start with voice check-ins, starting with short time check-ins. So if you have, say also low power, if you have low power short time, please come now with your call sign name, where you're transmitting from this evening. Okay, not hearing anybody on that round, so we'll go ahead and move into the general check-ins. So same request for general. Please come now with your name, call sign, and where you're transmitting from.
This is November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay, Mesquite.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch. Kilo, Golf 5, Uniform, Foxtrot, Romeo, Jacob, also Farmers Branch. This is Kilo, Golf 5, Whiskey, Victor, Lima, James in Carrollton. Kilo 0, Foxtrot, Echo, Romeo, Chris in Southeast Dallas.
This is Whiskey, Bravo, 4, Mike, Foxtrot, India, WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf, Uniform, Sierra, Gus, far, far northeast Dallas.
Kilo November 5, Echo, Echo, Echo. This is Al from beautiful Allen, Texas.
Kilo Romeo 4, Uniform, Sierra, Echo, Robert, Dallas.
Okay, let's pause there, and let me go ahead and recognize all that have checked in so far. Let's see, N5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay and Mesquite, KF5ZBL, Bill and Farmers Branch, Kilo Golf 5, Uniform, Foxtrot Romeo, Jacob and Farmers Branch, and then we've got KG5, Whiskey Victor Lima, James and Carrollton. Next was Chris in Southeast Dallas. There was a little bit of a double and your call sign kind of got stepped on. If you would give me your call sign again so that I could note it. Chris in Southeast Dallas, please come again with your call sign.
Kilo 0, Foxtrot, Echo, Romeo.
Okay, copy that. Kilo 0, Foxtrot, Echo, Romeo, Chris in Southeast Dallas. Thank you. And then we've got WB4, MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power. Whiskey 5, Gus, GUS, Gus in far, far northeast Dallas. And then Kilo November 5, Echo, 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 Allen, Allen. And then Robert in Dallas, your call sign kind of cut out. I caught Kilo Romeo 4, but did not get the last 3 of your call. If you would also repeat your call sign for me so that I can be sure to get it in the log.
Kilo Romeo 4, Uniform Sierra Echo, Robert Dallas.
Okay, I caught it that time. Kilo Romeo 4, Uniform Sierra Echo, Robert in Dallas. Welcome to Skynet. Are there any other general check-ins out there this evening? If you have not checked in yet and want to come now with your name, call sign, where you're transmitting from, general check-in. Okay, not hearing any more, so we'll move over to Echolink. I see Jimmy out there, KD5LQD, and I don't think there was anyone else that has not checked in yet. But if you have not checked in, you're on Echolink, and you have not checked into this evening's net, I'll give you some time to check in. If you would, just go ahead and check into this evening's net. If you don't have a microphone, you're welcome to use the chat. Echolink at this time.
Delta, KD5LQD, and Richardson.
Gotcha, Jimmy. Good to hear your voice tonight. All right. At this time, I'll open for any mode. We'll have an open round of check-ins. Anyone who would like to check in can do so now. Please come now with your call sign, name, where you're transmitting from, any mode. Okay, not hearing anyone, but I do see that Virginia NV5F in Fort Worth has checked in. She's over air radio on the call sheet. So welcome, Virginia. And welcome to all who have checked into Skynet. So let's get started with general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These can be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. If you have an announcement, please come now with your call sign.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike.
And G5PM, Tony, good evening. What announcements do you have for us this evening?
Good evening, Billy. I don't have too much. I want to remind everyone that tonight's Afterglow movie discussion, 10:30, 10:35-ish, will focus on Operation Avalanche from 2016. It's a CIA moon landing conspiracy with another CIA conspiracy at the same time. I'm going to try to sneak in a few comments about spies like us from back in the 80s. This Monday is the fourth Monday, so please join me for GeekNet on the 146.88 repeater. That's at 7 o'clock p.m. Anything you'd like to geek out about or any news of the weird will be welcome. You can also just talk about cool websites or tools you found, or maybe someone will think of a brain teaser. I've kind of been out of them for a while. Anyway, hope to hear you this Monday at 7, NT5TM.
Great. Thank you very much, Tony. Looking forward to GeekNet. Is there anyone else with any announcements for this evening's net? If so, please come now with your call sign. Okay, not hearing any, so I'll go ahead with a few announcements. The AMSAT Radio Amateur Satellite Group has 3 nets available to Dallas residents. On Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time, you can check into the National AMSAT net. Learn all about amateur satellites and how you can use them in amateur radio. The National AMSAT Net will bring the most up-to-date information on amateur satellites currently in use or new ones coming online. You will need Echolink installed and you registered. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. 2 local nets are available in Dallas. Both of these nets encourage active check-ins. You can ask questions of the net control as well as others checked in. AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Tom N5HYP is the net control on those Tuesday nights. All are welcome to check in. The first Tuesday of the month is the DARC Club Night, so there's no AMSAT East on that Tuesday night. Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.140 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. The DARC hosts a number of nets on Monday evenings at 7 p.m. Check the W5FC.org website. This coming Monday will be 4th Week Geek Net, Geek Beyond Ham Radio. This Monday, Geek Out Beyond Ham Radio. We expand topics to include computers, science, space, news of the weird, and much more. No topic is off limits, just long as it's geeky. As Tony mentioned to NT5TM, he is the net control. So other Monday night nets, first Monday is Ham Fixins. Second Monday is Emergency Communications 101. The next Monday is, third Monday is the second helping of Ham Fixins. Fourth Monday is GeekNet. And a fifth Monday is a surprise net. If we told you what it was, it wouldn't be a surprise. And Saturdays are the Night of Nets, where we keep the airwaves buzzing until midnight. Here's the lineup. TechNet from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. Q&A on all things ham radio related. There's also a swap meet, Rookie's Corner, news and information, and ham radio events and contests, alternating net control each week. Skynet from 9 to 10:30 p.m. Astronomy, space, and space exploration are the topics. Also news and information, satellite passes, and the Constellation of the week. And as was mentioned earlier, Afterglow MovieNet from 10:30 to midnight. Will it be a hit or the dreaded miss? Thumbs up or thumbs down? You make the call. First and third Sundays is the Dallas Amateur Radio Club meeting on the air. What's going on in your ham world? Tell us. Also learn about the club that maintains this popular repeater, the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. Club news and information, events, activities, including club meetings, lecture and lab, public service events, contests, and just general discussion. Everyone can check into this net. And daily is the ARRL net, National Traffic System Training Net, every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. Learn how message traffic is handled on this formal training net. Newbies are welcome to check in, as this is a training net. The NTS also conducts an evening net on the Irving Whiskey Alpha 5 Charlie Kilo Foxtrot repeater, 146.72 megahertz at 9:30 p.m. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. And as mentioned before, following Skynet is the Afterglow MovieNet. So at this time, I would like to turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, to give us tonight's Afterglow info from KF5PDS.
Thank you, Billye. This is KE5ICX, Tom down in Corpus. Here it is, tonight's Afterglow, highly accurate synopsis. That's a wrap, shouted the famous director, Stanley Kubrick. It has been a brutal session.
hours and hours of actors in fake spacesuits rolling over the meeting rooms. Shaped artifacts central to the movie's mysterious plot. The cast and crew came alive. They would pull anchor and go to the next scene. This one involving the cereal box monolith thing, telling his family he had to go to Jupiter to evolve mankind on a new adventure. The cast looked perplexed, but a paycheck was a paycheck. Everyone doubted that scene would make it into the movie. Once everyone was gone, the big stage door opened and some NASA-type technicians came in with a full-size lunar module and dumped it near the monolith prop. Someone mysterious shouted orders. Okay, we got exactly 48 hours before they strike this set. I need Armstrong and Aldrin in here pronto, and tell them no flag waving. We want this charade to go off without a hitch. Join us for the moon landing conspiracy theory movie thing, Operation Avalanche, tonight at 10:30 p.m. By the way, it's pretty good. Back to you, KE5, ICX.
Great. Thank you very much, Tom. And you can keep up with all the DARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, W5FC.org. So we currently have the following people checked in via the website. I see that W5, BLT, Bill, and Garland over Air Radio has checked in. So thank you, Bill, for checking in. I'll take additional voice check-ins. So if you have not checked into this evening's net via voice, please come now with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from. Okay, not hearing any, so at this time we'll move on to Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope. So at this time I'd like to turn the net over to Chaz. KF5JHA, the net is yours from KF5PDS.
Thank you, Billy. Good evening, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. Last night was the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas club meeting. It was a good meeting. About 50 people combined together with the online presence as well as the in-person presence were attending the meeting. So pretty good attendance. All right, so the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas club meeting is going to be on September the 26th. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas and also held on Zoom. The featured speaker is going to be Matt Penn. His topic is going to be the Citizen CATE and Citizen DEB solar eclipse experiment. That should be interesting. I'm sure there was a lot of experience going on during the two different eclipses we had over the last couple of years. Now, the task hosts Saturday night public observing sessions in the Dallas area. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night, so there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. Unfortunately, currently on the fourth Saturday of the month, which is tonight, there are no scheduled stargazings. On the first, second, and third Saturdays, there are. Well. So, if you'd like to get some more information, you can check the TASS website at texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. This is KF5JHA, back to KF5PDS.
Great, thank you, Chaz. Yes, this is KF5PDS, Billye, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is National Space Society events and activities. So at this time, I will turn the net over to Bill, N5BB. The net is yours from KF5PDS.
Thank you, Billy. This is N5BB.
I happen to be the National Space Society North Texas Chapter Vice President and Membership Director. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. Our local National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Just tap National Space Society of North Texas into the search box. On the last Friday evening of each month, on the last Friday evening of each month, from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. Location is Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. Anyone is welcome to attend and discuss human activities in space with us. No membership in any group is required. 11 people attended the July 25th Space Rendezvous event. The next Space Rendezvous will be held this upcoming Friday evening, August 29th, always the last Friday of the month. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. The meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. The last chapter meeting on August 10th was a virtual presentation by Dr. Rosalie Lopez of NASA JPL, who discussed the Cassini-Huygens space probe, which investigated Saturn's moon Titan. Our meetings are also available virtually. Contact Bill in 5BB if you'd like to attend. Our next meeting will be on Sunday, September the 14th. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill in 5 Bravo Bravo at his QRZ listed email address or at space@byram.net. Thank you, Billy. This is N5BB. Back to net.
Great. Thank you very much, Bill. All right, next up is recent astronomical discoveries. So at this time, I'm going to pass the net over to Brenda, WB5OZL. The net is yours from KF5 PBS.
Thank you, Billye. This is WB5OZL. And this article is from Science News Daily, or ScienceDaily.com, and the title is "Mysterious Little Red Dots Could Reveal How the First Black Holes Formed." Astronomers at the Center for Astrophysics, Harvard, and Smithsonian have proposed a new explanation for some of the universe's most puzzling early galaxies, nicknamed little red dots. In the study published in the Astrophysical Journal Letters, authors Fabio Pacucci and Abraham Loeb suggest that the galaxies are the result of very slowly spinning dark matter halos and extremely rare cosmic structure. These faint, compact objects discovered in deep space images from the James Webb Telescope have challenged scientists' understanding of how galaxies and black holes formed in the early universe. Their paper, Cosmic Outliers, Low-Spin Halos Explain the Abundance, Compactness, and Redshift Evolution of the Little Red Dots, offers a physical explanation for the dots' distinctive properties. Little red dots are very compact and red distant galaxies that were completely undetected before the James Webb Space Telescope, said Pacucci. They are arguably the most surprising discovery by the JWST to date. Our work shows that these could naturally form in dark matter halos with very low spin. Go to reset. These galaxies are primarily visible when the universe was just 1 billion years old, but likely formed much earlier, Pacucci said, during the time known as the cosmic dawn. Despite being about 1/10 the size of typical galaxies, astronomical observations show them to appear unusually bright. Astronomers believe their striking red color suggests they are shrouded in dust and filled with older stars. For years, astronomers have debated whether the light we observe from these objects is generated by stars or central supermassive black holes. It's a fundamental mystery, said Pacucci. If they contain black holes, these black holes are enormous for such small galaxies. But if they only contain stars, the galaxies are too compact to contain all of them, reaching central stellar densities that are unthinkable. Rather than focusing on what powers the luminous dots, Pacucci and Loeb took a different approach. They examined how such objects might form in the first place. Dark matter halos are the invisible spinning scaffolding around which galaxies form. In their paper, the authors showed that the luminous dots formed in halos that are in the lowest 1% of the spin dot distribution. In other words, 99% of all halos spin faster than those. These low-spin halos would naturally create extremely compact galaxies, much like the swings ride at a carnival. The faster the halo spins, the further out the swings stretch, causing the galaxy forming at its center to expand. Likewise, a slow spin keeps the swing's radius smaller. Going to reset. This hypothesis also explains why luminous dots are relatively rare. They represent just 1% of the abundance of typical galaxies, but are more common than quasars, the extremely bright centers, supermassive black holes that shine at the center of some galaxies. In addition, the theory helps clarify why luminous dots are only observed during a brief 1 billion year period in the early universe. As the universe evolves, dark matter halos grow larger and gain more angular momentum, making it more difficult to form compact, low-spin galaxies. Dark matter halos are characterized by a rotational velocity. Some of them spin very slowly and others spin more rapidly, Loeb said. We showed that if you assume the little red dots are typically in the first percentile of the spin distribution of dark matter halos, then you explain all their observational properties. While the paper does not resolve whether the little red dots are powered by stars or black holes, it suggests they are prime environments for rapid stellar or black hole growth. Low-spin halos tend to concentrate mass in the center, which makes it easier for a black hole to accrete matter or for stars to form rapidly, said Pacucci. Some of the dots show broad emission lines in their spectra, which are possible signs of active black holes, but they lack the X-ray emission Sorry, almost made it. We're on the last paragraph. Pacucci is leading new programs to understand better the nature of these peculiar astrophysical sources. For example, finding smaller nearby galaxies will clarify what they evolve into further out in space. Our work is a step toward understanding these mysterious objects, he said. They might help us understand how the black holes formed and co-evolved with galaxies in the early universe. Back to net, WB5OZL.
Great. Thank you very much, Brenda. This is KFI-PDS, Billye, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is discussion topic of the evening. So for tonight's topic, I have chosen the Giant Magellan Telescope. The Giant Magellan Telescope, or GMT, is a ground-based, extremely large telescope currently under construction at Las Campanas Observatory in Chile's Atacama Desert. with a primary mirror diameter of 25.4 meters, it is expected to be the largest Gregorian telescope ever built, observed in optical and mid-infrared wavelengths from 320 nanometers to 25,000 nanometers. Commissioning of the telescope is anticipated in the early 2030s. So what is a Gregorian telescope, you may be wondering if you're not familiar. This was a design that was put forth by James Gregory in the 17th century and was first built in 1673 by Robert Hooke. So the Gregorian telescope consists of two concave mirrors. The primary mirror, a concave paraboloid, collects the light and brings it to a focus before the secondary mirror, which is a concave ellipsoid, where it is reflected back through a hole in the center of the primary, and thus it comes out of the bottom of the instrument where it can be viewed with the aid of an eyepiece. So this design is also still used for some spotting scopes because the way this is designed provides an image that's right side up without the need for prisms. So there's just a little bit on Gregorian telescopes in case you were not familiar with that design. The GMT will feature 7 of the world's largest mirrors, collectively providing a light collecting area of 368 square meters. It is expected to have a resolving power approximately 10 times greater than the Hubble Space Telescope and 4 times greater than the James Webb Space Telescope. However, it will not be able to observe in the same infrared frequencies as space-based telescopes. The GMT will be used to explore a wide range of astrophysical phenomena, including the search for signs of life on exoplanets and the study of cosmic origins of chemical elements. The casting of the GMT's primary mirrors began in 2005, and construction at the site started in 2015. By 2023, all 7 primary mirrors had been cast. The first of 7 adaptive secondary mirrors was under construction, and the telescope mount was in the manufacturing stage. Other subsystems of the telescope were in the final stages of design. The project, with an estimated cost of $2 billion, is being developed by GMTO Corporation, a consortium of research institutions from 7 countries: Australia, Brazil, Chile, Israel, South Korea, Taiwan, and the United States. The telescope is located at Las Campanas Observatory, which is also home to the Magellan telescopes. The observatory is situated approximately 115 kilometers or 71 miles north-northeast of La Serena and 180 kilometers or 112 miles south of Copiapó at an altitude of 2,516 meters or 8,255 feet. The site has been owned by the Carnegie Institution for Science since 1960. Las Campanas was selected as the location for the GMT due to its exceptional astronomical seeing conditions and clear weather throughout much of the year. The sparse population in the surrounding Atacama Desert, combined with favorable geographical conditions, ensures minimal atmospheric and light pollution. This makes the area one of the best locations on Earth for long-term astronomical observation. The observatory's southern hemisphere location also provides access to significant astronomical targets, including the galactic center of the Milky Way, the nearest supermassive black hole, Sagittarius A*, the nearest star to the Sun, Proxima Centauri, the Magellanic Clouds, and numerous nearby galaxies and exoplanets. The Giant Magellan Telescope's Gregorian design will produce the highest possible image resolution of the universe over the widest field of view with only 2 light-collecting surfaces, making it the most optically proficient of all extremely large telescopes in the 30-meter class. Site preparation began with the first blast to level the mountain peak on March 23, 2012. In November 2015, construction was started at the site with a groundbreaking ceremony. In January 2018, WSP was awarded the contract to manage construction of the giant Magellan telescope. The casting of the first mirror in a rotating furnace was completed on November 3, 2005. A third segment was cast in August 2013, the fourth in September 2015, the fifth in 2017, the sixth in 2021, and the last one in 2023. Polishing of the first mirror was completed in November 2012. Ingersoll Machine Tools finished constructing a manufacturing facility to manufacture the giant Magellan telescope mount in Rockford, Illinois in December 2021. As of 2022, construction of the telescope mount was underway. The structure is expected to be delivered to Chile at the end of 2025. So there is some information about the giant Magellan telescope, which you can read on Wikipedia, and there's also a Giant Magellan website. Let me get you that website real quick. That is giantmagellan.org. So there's a nice website for the Giant Magellan telescope. So does anyone have any questions or comments for tonight's presentation? If so, please come now with your call sign. Okay, not hearing any. This is KF5PDS Billye, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Next up is What's Up. So at this time I will return the net to Chaz. KF5JHA, the net is yours from KF5PDS.
Thank you, Billy. Good evening once again, everyone. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. Slide Master. I'm talking about video. Yes, we have video for Skynet. If you didn't know that, you can go to W5FC.org, go down to the links for the video version of Skynet. You can watch some pictures that go along with the audio that you're hearing right now, so that's kind of cool. Anyway, we call this segment of Skynet What Is Up? Because it's all about what's going on astronomically, well, what has gone on astronomically over the last couple of weeks, and what will take place over the next couple of weeks and beyond. Slide Master, slide number 3. Have you been watching the dance of the planets and the moon in the morning sky? All right, here's some pictures that I took over the last week with just my cell phone camera. From left to right, the pics were taken on August the 19th, I believe that was Tuesday, and then August the 20th and August the 21st. The fainter object in each one of the images is the planet Jupiter. Then there's Venus, which is much brighter. And, of course, the moon is above the planets and beside the planets and below the planets in that order, depending on which picture you're looking at. I would suggest you keep a watch over the sky, the evening sky, and the morning sky, because there's lots of things going on. I'll cover some of those in just a few minutes. All right, here we go. Slide Master, slide number 4. Now, we've talked about the predicted nova of the star T Corona Borealis, which may erupt at any time. It's way past due. It's over a year past due when we thought it was going to go nova. Currently, it's a brightness around 10th magnitude, which is much too faint to be seen with just your 2 eyes. Now, T Corona Borealis, like I said, was supposed to go nova more than a year ago. Now, there's new predictions of November the 10th of this year or June 25th of next year. Who knows when it's going to happen. But when it does go nova, T Corona Borealis could become as bright as the North Star, which is 2nd magnitude. I can see the North Star with just my eyes from my very light-polluted location here in Mesquite. Slide Master, slide number 5. This is an image of the sun taken last week, about a week ago on August the 18th, from spaceweather.com. That's where I borrowed that from. Now, large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large at times that you can just use your solar eclipse glasses to see them with no other optical aid. We haven't had one of those for a little while, and right now there's only a few little sunspots on the sun. Now, the sun is near its 11-year solar maximum. We're not sure when the solar maximum will occur until after it happens. Now, I've talked about the solar eclipse cycle about 4 months ago on Skynet. I'm laughing because there's a cat that wants in from outside. Yeah, that's Bob the cat. I forgot to mention Bob the cat when I signed in. Oh, well. Slide master, slide number 6. If you go outside and look out, try to find the moon, you're not going to find it. It's new moon today. So the current, well, yeah, it's new moon. Now on August the 29th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 404,548 kilometers. On August the 31st, the moon is at its first quarter phase. Full moon will be on September the 7th. On September the 10th, the moon will be at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the sun. Closest to the sun? No, that would be closest to the Earth, at a distance of 364,777 kilometers. Slide master, slide number 7. Get your pen and paper out. Here comes a series of things. On August the 26th, there's a conjunction of the moon, the planet Mars, and the bright star Spica in the evening west-southwestern sky. Slide master, slide number 8. On August the 30th, there's a conjunction of the moon and the bright star Antares in the southwestern evening sky. Slide master, slide number 9. On August the 31st, September the 1st, that night, is the peak of the Eureka meteor shower. About a half a dozen meteors per hour will happen. Most of the time you can see the most meteors in the nighttime sky about an hour before it's dawn. Now, to get detailed information about how to observe meteors and meteor showers, you can just visit the website of the International Meteor Organization at IMO.net or the American Meteor Society at amsmeteors.org. Slide master, slide number 10. On September the 1st, in the eastern morning sky, it's a conjunction of Venus and the star cluster M44, which is the Beehive star cluster. If you have a pair of binoculars, get them out and take a look at them, because the Beehive star cluster is easy to find with binoculars. And that morning, on September the 1st, since the bright planet Venus is right there, you're going to be able to see it easily. So Venus and the star cluster M44. Slide master, slide number 11. On September the 2nd, just the next morning, well, next evening, I should say, there's the conjunction of Mercury and Regulus in the east-northeastern morning sky. Oh, it is the morning sky. Slide master, slide number 12. On September the 8th, the Moon, Saturn, and Neptune are in conjunction in the east-southeastern evening sky. You'll need a telescope to observe the planet Neptune. Slide master, slide number 13. On September the 12th, the Moon and M45, the Pleiades, are in conjunction in the south-southwestern morning sky with the planet Uranus close by. Now, you'll need at least a pair of binoculars or a telescope to see the planet Uranus. You can find it with binoculars. I've done that. Slide master, slide number 14. On September the 12th, the planet Mars and Spica, which is the brightest star in the constellation of Virgo, are in conjunction in the evening west-southwestern sky. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 15. Alright, now do any of you out there in Radio Land have a question or maybe need a fill on the information I've just given you? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. I guess Coco the cat just doesn't have any questions. Bob the cat does sign to Coco, by the way. Slide Master, slide number 16. So as the moon waned last week, so do these words of this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live right now, and until next time, actually I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet, transmitting on the W5FC repeater at 146.88 megahertz. Back to our net control. Billye, KF5PDS.
Great, thank you, Chaz. Yes, this is KF5PDS Billye, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, pausing real quick to acknowledge check-in. We've got AB5DM, Dustin in Dallas, over air radio. Thanks for checking in using the website hotlink. Is there anyone else out there that has not had a chance to check in yet that would like to do so? Please come now with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from.
This is Alpha Charlie 5 Delta Lima, Dave, Louisville, Texas.
Great. Alpha Charlie 5 Delta Lima, Dave in Louisville. Thanks for joining Skynet. Is there anyone else that would like to check into this evening's net? If so, please come now with your call sign name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo India 5, Juliet Charlie Mike, Thomas in Euless. No traffic.
KI5JCM, Thomas, was that Euless as your location?
KI5JCM, affirmative, Euless. Back to you now.
Great, thank you for the confirmation. Is there anyone else that would like to check into this evening's net? If so, please come now with your call sign name, where you're transmitting from. Not hearing any, so we'll move on to our next segment, which is space exploration and space history. So at this time, I will turn the net over to Gus, W5GUS. The net is yours. Sure happy to have you on the team, Gus, from KF5PDS.
Okay, thank you, Billye. W5GUS here with space exploration news. We got some interesting news this week. Astronomers have spotted only 3 objects known to have come from outside our solar system. The newest, or the latest, called 31 Atlas, is already raising eyebrows. First seen this summer, it doesn't quite behave like a comet, and that's what makes it so fascinating to some. Some researchers say it's just an icy traveler from deep space, while others believe it might be something far more unusual, perhaps even technology built by another civilization. NASA's Hubble Space Telescope captured the clearest image so far of 31 Atlas about a month ago. The picture shows a glowing haze known as a coma shining ahead of the object as it moved toward the sun. That's typical for comets when heat vaporizes their icy surface. What's not typical with 31 Atlas is what's missing. There's no bright tail trailing behind it, the sort you'd normally expect. Instead, the glow appears focused like a beam of light ahead of the comet, in front of its path. Harvard University astrophysicist Avi Loeb, never shy about offering bold ideas, pointed out that the brightness doesn't match what sunlight reflecting off dust should look like. In fact, the steep brightness curve suggests most of the light is coming directly from the nucleus itself. If that's true, the object may be much smaller than earlier estimates, perhaps less than 100 meters across, similar in size to the other interstellar visitors, Oumuamua and 21 Borisov. This unusual brightness has led Loeb and his colleague Eric Quito to consider a daring possibility. The object might be producing its own light. That would separate it from ordinary comets and asteroids. Loeb calculated that the glow requires about 10 gigawatts of power, comparable to the output of a large power plant here on Earth. Sunlight reflected alone cannot explain the observed profile. So what could provide such energy? Loeb explored several options. A tiny black hole radiating energy through Hawking radiation would generate only a fraction of the needed power. A shard from a supernova core rich in radioactive materials could fit, but such fragments are extraordinarily rare. The most adventurous explanation is that the 31 Atlas might be a spacecraft powered by nuclear energy, shedding dust it collected during its long journey across space. Well, if that's what it is, it's not going to be close enough to exchange waves with the crew, close enough to Earth to do that. The closest it comes to Earth later this year is 170 million miles, so waves will be much more possible from Mars, as Atlas 31 will be only a distance of only 18 million miles from Mars. So I'm sure we'll be hearing more about Atlas 31 as in the near future. Okay, we'll move on to an asteroid, another asteroid, I guess. You might remember about 5 years ago, asteroid Bennu was sampled by NASA's OSIRIS-REx mission. It went up to it got some samples from the asteroid. That was in 2020. And they determined it's a mixture of dust that formed in our solar system, organic matter from interstellar space, and pre-solar system stardust. Its unique and varied contents were dramatically transformed over time by interactions with water and exposure to the harsh space environment. These insights come from a trio of newly published papers based on the analysis of Bennu samples by scientists at NASA and other institutions. Bennu is made of fragments from a larger parent asteroid destroyed by a collision in the asteroid belt between somewhere between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. One of the papers, co-led by Jessica Barnes of University of Arizona Tucson and Ann Gwynn of NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston and published in the journal Nature Astronomy suggest that Bennu's ancestor was made up of material that had diverse origins near the Sun, far from the Sun, and even beyond our solar system. These analyses show that some of the material in the parent asteroid, despite very low odds, escaped various chemical processes driven by heat and water, and even survived the extremely energetic collision that broke it apart from and formed Bennu. Quote, "We traced the origins of these initial materials accumulated by Bennu's ancestor," said Nguyen. "We found stardust grains with compositions that predate our solar system, organic matter that likely formed in interstellar space, and high-temperature minerals that form closer to the Sun. All of these constituents were transported great distances to the region that Bennu's parent asteroid formed." The chemical and atomic similarities of samples from Bennu, the asteroid Ryugu, and the most chemically primitive meteorites collected on Earth suggest that their parent asteroids may have formed in a similar distant region of the early solar system. Yet the differences from Ryugu and meteorites that were seen in the Bennu samples may indicate that this region changed over time or did not mix as well as some scientists have thought. Okay, interesting. That brings us up to space-related birthdays of the past week, August 17th through the 23rd. Let's see, August 17th was Thomas J. Hennon, born in 1952. He was on STS-44. Catherine C. Thornton, August 17th, 1952. She was on STS-33, STS-49, STS-61, STS-73. And Story Musgrave was born on August 19th, 1935. He was on STS-6, STS-51, STS-33, STS-44, STS-61, STS-80. Wow, that's a lot. Born on August 19th, 1935. Okay, move on to August 19th, 1946. Charles Boulder, August 19, 1946. He was on STS-61, STS-31, and STS-45, STS-60. August 1962, Mike Massimo was born August 19th, 1962. He was on STS-109, STS-125. Okay, on August 20th, 1938, Jean-Luc Cretin. He was on Soyuz T6, Salyut 7, Soyuz TM7 Mir, Soyuz TM6 Mir, and STS-86 Mir. Okay, and let's see. David Wild, August 23rd, 1956. David Wold, W-O-L-D. David Wold, August 23rd, 1956. STS-58, STS-86, STS-89, Mir 24, STS-112, STS-127. And on August 23rd, 1967, Dominic STS-119, STS-132. That's the last birthday, so let's move on to This Week in Space History. Okay, August 21st, 1914, on a total solar eclipse temporarily darkened the skies across Europe, and Asia confirmed Einstein's theory of relativity. A young German astronomer, friend of Albert Einstein's, Erwin Finley, led an expedition to the Crimea Peninsula of Russia, where he hoped to record observations that would verify Albert Einstein's general relativity theory. This theory predicted that the light from distant stars appearing very close to the sun's edge should shift due to the curvature of space. Those stars would only be visible during a total solar eclipse when the moon blocks out the sun's bright light. Unfortunately, the start of World War I was just 20 days before the eclipse foiled, which was only 20 days before the eclipse, foiled the expedition. After Germany declared war on Russia, he and his colleagues were captured by the Russian army, and their equipment was confiscated. But after the war, a solar eclipse on May 29, 1919, was used to confirm Einstein's theory of relativity, so the experiment was ultimately a success. Okay, and most of you will probably remember August 21st, 2017. The solar eclipse, dubbed the Great American Eclipse by the media, was a total solar eclipse visible within a band that spanned the entire contiguous U.S., passing from the Pacific Northwest to the Atlantic coast. As a partial solar eclipse, it was visible on land from northern Canada to as far south as northern South America. In northwestern Europe and Africa, it was partially visible in the late evening. In northeastern Asia, it was partially visible at sunrise, and prior to this event, no solar eclipse had been visible across the United States since June 8, 1918, not since the February 1979 eclipse had a total eclipse been visible from anywhere in the United States, in mainland U.S. The path of totality touched 14 states, and the rest of the U.S. had a partial eclipse. The event's shadow began to cover land on the Oregon coast as a partial eclipse at 9:05 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and the total eclipse land coverage ended along the South Carolina coast at about 2:44 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Okay, that's it for this week's episode, and so I'll pass it back to Net Control for the next segment, Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. Back to you, Net Control W5GUS.
Great, thank you, Gus. This is KF5PDS Billye, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. And that last birthday you read out for Dominic Antonelli, Tony Antonelli, he was at Moon Day. It was really great to hear him speak and really nice to meet him. And I asked him about his experiences as a test pilot. So it was really interesting to hear him present about his space missions and to get to talk to him a little bit at the end and get an autograph and a picture. So that was really awesome. All right, I'm going to pause just for a moment and see if we have any other check-ins. Looking at our website link, I don't see any new check-ins there, but if there's someone over voice that would like to check into this evening's net, please come now with your call sign, name, and where you're transmitting from.
Kilo 5, Juliet Delta with Mobile, John and
Hey, John, K5JDW. John, I caught that you were mobile, but I didn't get your location. If you gave your location, please repeat it because it kind of cut out with the static.
John Mobile indications.
That's okay, John. I caught that you were mobile. It's just really staticky. So anyway, glad you're here. K5JDW, John, we got you checked into this evening's net. Is there anyone else that would like to check into this evening's net? Please come now with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from. All right, not hearing anyone, so we'll move on to the next segment, which guest said was Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. So at this time, I will return the net to Chaz, KF5JHA. The net is yours from KF5PDS.
Thank you, Billy. This is Chaz, KF5JHA. This could be interesting because Bob the Cat is wandering around. I hope he doesn't wander on top of the computer keyboard. All right. Slide Master, slide number 17. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key, Carolyn, KC50ZT. Carolyn contributes to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Now, since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of a total of 88 constellations, so Ms. Carolyn covers the entire sky scene over Texas, well, North Texas anyway, in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition and named this segment after her. So Ms. Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Aquila the Eagle. The constellation's name Aquila means eagle in Latin. The constellation represents an eagle of the Roman god Jupiter in mythology. The constellation was first cataloged by the Greek astronomer Ptolemy in the 2nd century. In Greek mythology, Aquila is identified as the eagle that carried Zeus's thunderbolt and was once dispatched by the god to carry Ganymede, the young Trojan boy Zeus desired. Okay, let's see now. Ganymede is represented by the neighboring constellation of Aquarius. Slide Master, slide number 18. The Jokes of the Week, one of the most important segments, of course, in Skynet. All right, here we go. So, what bird doesn't need a comb? The bald eagle. Oh, come on, that was funny. Oh, by the way, the Jokes of the Week are usually associated with the constellation. What does the eagle say to his friends before they go out hunting for food? Let us pray. P-R-E-Y. How does the eagle greet his prey? Pleased to eat you. What is the eagle's favorite game? Peekaboo. Okay, some of these are okay, aren't they? What do you call a sick eagle? Well, that's easy. An illegal. And the last one in the sequence, here we go. Why is the eagle considered the most skillful bird? Because it's most talented. Talented? Okay, well. Slide Master, slide number 19, please. Altar, which is Alpha Aquila, is the brightest star in the Aquila, and the 12th brightest star in the sky. Altar is one of the 3 stars that make up the summer triangle, the second brightest member of the 3. Named Altar is derived from the Arabic word that means flying eagle. Altar is an A-type white star located only 17 light years from the Earth. Altar is one of the few stars that has been directly imaged. A copy of the image can be found on page 7 of Volume 2 of the Annals of the Deep Sky by Jeff Knipe and Dennis Webb. It also might be found in Wikipedia if you take a look at it. Just go look at Altair on Wikipedia. Altair is noted for its extremely fast rotational period, about 6.5 hours. Wow! It rotates that fast? Which translates to the rotational speed of about 160 miles per second at the equator. The rapid rotation rate makes the star oblate spheroid, so it's not a sphere, it's an oblate spheroid. Its equatorial diameter, which is 4 solar masses, is about 22% greater than its polar diameter, which is 3.32 solar radii. Tarzad, the second brightest star in Aquila, is named derived from the Persia, which means the beam of the scale. Its spectral class is K32. It's a bright giant star, an apparent magnitude of 2.72 and approximately 461 light years distance. It is 2,960 times more luminous than the Sun, has a radius of 110 solar radii, making it about half of an astronomical unit. Wow, that's pretty big. It's known as a source of X-rays. It's only about 100 million years old, and yet it's already burning helium into carbon at its core. It's going to go through a store of material really quickly. This is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 20. NGC, which stands for New General Catalog, 6760 is a globular star cluster. Dave Hutchinson notes that this globular star cluster is pretty easy to locate and observe. He found numerous reports of people locating the star cluster using just binoculars. Using his 13-inch Newtonian, he describes NGC 6760 as a very nice cluster that is very symmetrical with a pretty dense core. He adds that he didn't think he resolved it completely with his 13-inch telescope. Slide Master, slide number 21. NGC 6781 is a planetary nebula known as the Snow Globe Nebula. We should be talking about this in the wintertime, shouldn't we? Dave Hutchinson describes NGC 6781 as a sort of a cross between M57, the Ring Nebula, and M97, which is the Owl Nebula. Like the Ring Nebula, this object is well-defined ring, but unlike the Ring Nebula and more like the Owl Nebula, this object's interior is well illuminated. He mentions that it is a nice object for an 8-inch telescope and above, and challenges those with larger telescopes to try to observe the nebula's central star, which shines at magnitude 16. That's kind of faint. Slide Master, slide number 22. NGC 6751 is a planetary nebula also known as the Dandelion Puffball, or the Glowing Eye Nebula. Dave Hutchinson notes that NGC 6751 was difficult to see in his 13-inch telescope because it's very faint and small, and almost lost in the crowded Milky Way star field. Slide Master, slide number 23, NGC 6778 is a planetary nebula as well, sometimes known as the son of M76. Dave Hutchinson writes that NGC 6778 was even more difficult to find than NGC 6751 and a 13-inch telescope. He suggests that a medium power, he had to use medium power to find it, where it would be easily noticeable with larger telescopes. It's irregular, it's round, but it looks like a fuzzy star. But it's a planetary nebula. This is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 24. Now, there's a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Aquila the Eagle. I've given you just a sampling of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has last count. I was updated it last night at the Astronomy Club meeting. There's 96 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pin in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide master, slide number 25, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Aquila the Eagle. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for their research and words on deep sky objects that I borrow and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now next week I'll take a look at Vulpecula, the little fox, and Sagitta, or Sagitta, the arrow. This is KF5JHA. Chaz saying goodnight, 73, and back to our net control. Billye, it's yours. KF5PDS.
Great. Thank you very much, Chaz. This is KF5PDS, Billye, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is space launches for the week, which is Tom, and I believe you also have satellite passages over the next couple of weeks right after, so I give you permission to run both segments, just go from one right after the other. So this is handing the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, from KF5PDS.
Well, thank you, Billye, and this is KE5ICX. So, space launches for this week. We have August 24th, coming up tomorrow, Falcon 9 Cirrus 33 launch. This is the SLC-40 launch pad at Cape Canaveral. A SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket will launch a cargo Dragon spacecraft with more than 5,000 pounds of science and supplies to the International Space Station. The Dragon flying this mission will include a new propulsion system within the vehicle's trunk that will allow it to perform a boost of the space station's orbit. This is a milestone in SpaceX development of the ISS deorbit vehicle that will help slowly lower the orbit of the space station in the end of its functional life around 2030 or 31 time frame. SpaceX will launch the mission using the Falcon 9 first stage booster, tail number B1090. That will be launched for the 7th time, a little more than 8.5 minutes after liftoff. That booster will target a landing on a SpaceX drone ship, a shortfall of gravitas, which will be positioned in the Atlantic Ocean. Then we have on August 24th, Starship Flight 10. Hooray! This is from launch site OLP-A at Starbase. There are 2 launch pads now, one designated A and B. The SpaceX Starship Super Heavy rocket, collectively referred to as Starship, will launch from Starbase, Texas on a suborbital flight. This will be the 10th flight of the integrated launch vehicle. Similarly to Flight 9, SpaceX will not attempt to perform a catch of the Super Heavy booster and instead attempt a controlled splashdown in the Gulf. The ship's upper stage will also target an aquatic ending and will also attempt multiple demonstrations like deploying 8 Starlink simulators and relighting a single Raptor engine during the coast phase of the mission. Space Force Base out in California. This OHB Italia's NEOS, that's the National Advanced Optical System spacecraft, on a rideshare mission alongside with 7 other satellites. NEOS is part of the Luxembourg government's Directorate of Defense Luxembourg Earth Observation, or LuxEOSys program, and will operate in a 450-kilometer polar low Earth orbit. The satellite was originally scheduled to launch on the second half of 2023 on the Arianespace Vega C rocket, but the government of Luxembourg shifted the €382 million mission to the Falcon 9 because of issues with the Vega C. The launch on board Falcon 9 was then planned for sometime between October of 24 and January of 25. Alongside the base system main satellite is UVA, Space Leap 1, Planets Pelican 3, Pelican 4, Echolink, Acadia, F-Fly 1 and F-Fly 2, and F-Fly 3. SpaceX will launch the mission using the Falcon 9 first stage booster with tail number B1063 for the 27th time. A little less than 8 minutes after liftoff, B1063 will target a landing back on landing zone 4. Then we have on August 27th, this will be Starlink 1011. This will be launched from Kennedy at Launch Complex 39A. This will be 28 Starlink V2 mini satellites will be launched into low Earth orbit. Nearly 8.5 minutes after liftoff, the first stage booster, tail number 1067, launching for the 30th time, will target a landing on a drone ship, a short ball of gravitas positioned in the Atlantic Ocean. Previously assigned Falcon 9 booster D1095, launching from Space Launch Complex 40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. Then we have, check my time here, August 27th, Falcon 9 Starlink 10-56. This will launch from SLC 40 at Cape Canaveral. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch 28 Starlink B2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit. 8.5 minutes after launch, Falcon 9 first stage booster, B1095, launching for the second time, will target a landing on the drone ship. Just read the instructions positioned in the Atlantic Ocean. And I'll do two more. We have Falcon 9 Starlink 17-7. This will launch from SOC-4E at Vandenberg, out in California. This will be 24 Starlink V2 mini satellites in low Earth orbit. 8.5 minutes after liftoff, sound familiar? First stage booster 1082, flying for the 15th time. Of course, I Still Love You, positioned in the Pacific Ocean. Then we have on August 30th, Falcon 9 Starlink 10-14, SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. This will launch 28 Starlink V2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit. 8.5 minutes after liftoff, Falcon 9 first stage booster, tail number 1077, launching for the 23rd time, will target a landing on the drone ship. Just read the instructions position in the Atlantic Ocean. As you can imagine, there's a lot of Starlink activity going on. Now, I read all those because visible satellite passages, ISS, no visible passes, well there are, but they're so low on the horizon. And Tiangong, the other space station by the Chinese, also no real visible passes. So that's why you got all those extra reads. So back to you, Billye. This is KE5ICX.
Great. Thank you very much, Tom. Yes, you can use, if you're looking for satellite passages, you can use the website www.heavens-above.com, and you can find out what's in orbit and where to look for flyovers. It will let you put your location information into the site so that you can get the most accurate information for your location. All right, we don't have anybody else new checked in to the website sheet, so I'll go ahead and take last call, final round for check-ins. If you want to get in this evening's count, please come now with your call sign name, where you're transmitting from. I'm not hearing any. Are there any check-in stations that have any last-minute comments or questions?
KI5JCM comment.
KI5JCM, go ahead with your comment, Thomas.
Well, it's actually a question. I was just wondering if anyone had heard any new information or updates on Eris bringing on board the Artemis program. I've heard we might actually
I'm completely operational. All my circuits are
contact with astronauts on the surface, but I hadn't heard anything. I just wanted to see if anyone else had heard anything about how that setup's going to work. KI5JCM, back to net control.
If there's anybody out there with an answer to Thomas's question, go ahead and come with your call time.
NV5F.
NV5F, Virginia, go ahead.
Okay, I don't necessarily have the answer, but our friend Randy Berger, WA0D, works with Eris, and they work closely, of course, with NASA, and he knows more about that than anybody I know. He is often on the AMSAT nets on Tuesday or Wednesday night. He'll show up if he's in town. He works a normal full-time engineering job, and then he works as a VP for engineering for Eris. So I would say he is the person to ask, and you might want to just try to catch him on one of the AMSAT nets coming up when he's in town. That's the best I've got. Back to net, NV5F.
Great. Well, I don't think you could get any better than that. Thanks, Virginia. All right. Unfortunately, we're out of time, so I'm going to go ahead and close the net. So tonight, we had 25 hams participating on the air, so thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all the other DARC nets. If you would like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussions about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. So until next Saturday night, this is KF5TDS Billye, and I'll be closing the net at 22:32 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 73, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. And in about 5 minutes, get ready for the Afterglow movie net, where tonight's discussion will be about Operation Avalanche from 2016. 73, everybody.
hopefully everybody managed to find a beverage, maybe pop some popcorn. You get just enough time to make some microwave popcorn. So it is now time for the Afterglow Movie Net. What's this about, you ask? Well, most of you already know, and those of you who don't will know in just a second. We talk about some obscure, weird, usually science fiction-y type film. I were assigned to watch a week in advance, and then we go and watch the thing, and then we write notes, and then we come back, and at this time, every Saturday night, we discuss the film. This week's movie is called Operation Avalanche. It's from 2016, and it's considered a found footage conspiracy thriller film. It's directed by a guy named Matt Johnson, who co-wrote it with Josh Bowles. Johnson and Owen Williams star as CIA agents who infiltrate NASA to expose a potential mole, only to become embroiled in a conspiracy to fake the moon landing portion of the 1969 Apollo 11 mission. Now, I'm going to read the description in here because it is quite entertaining, to be honest with you. So here we go. The film opens with President John F. Kennedy's 62 "We choose to go to the moon" speech in 1967. Ambitious CIA agents Matt Johnson, Owen Williams, and Andy Aquila and Jared Robb convinced their superiors to let them infiltrate NASA disguised as a documentary crew filming the Apollo 11 mission in an effort to root out a Soviet mole inside the organization. After bugging Administrator James Webb's telephone, the crew discovers the lander built for the moon landing is incapable of landing on the moon, and NASA plans to keep it secret. When they tell their superior, Brackett, they're told to leave NASA, which they disregard. To cover up the inability of the lander to prevent the Russians from winning the space race, the crew starts Operation Avalanche, faking parts of the moon landing, gaining the approval of Brackett. He sends agent Josh Bowles to keep an eye on them. Reviewing the footage of the NASA pool party, Jared noticed two men filming them. Hearing of Stanley Kubrick filming 2001: A Space Odyssey, the crew travels to England where they film the set with a hidden camera in hopes of copying his tactics. They learn about front screen projection, which they will use to make their fake moon landing videos more convincing. They prepare a plan to fake the radio signals NASA receives from the lander, read out a pre-written script, and broadcast the fake landing. Matt becomes frantic when he learns that his plan fails. The CIA plans to shoot down the real Apollo 11 lander and blame the Soviets. Matt begins burying finished footage in the field. During the shoot, Owen notices a pair of men watching them. When the pair approaches them, they drive away. Bowles informs him that they've caught the mole, but he does not seem to be involved with the man watching them. When Owen examines interview footage with the mole, he realizes that he was the other man on the phone with Webb, leading him to believe the mole, Bowles, and the men watching him are all part of the CIA. After the mole dies, Owen believes the CIA is planning to finish them off to tie up loose ends. After finishing Avalanche, Matt gives a copy to Bowles and cuts up a copy with footage proving the fake. The fake launch goes off without a hitch. Matt burns the props and used in the videos, finding the motel room where they were using trash and men sweeping the premise. Matt, Jared, and Andrew dig up Matt's copy of the film. As they leave with it, they are attacked by a car that shoots at them, narrowly escaping. Matt finds Owen hanged in his garage. He gives the film canisters to Andrew and sends him to go hide them. He calls Brackett on the payphone and offers to trade his location for the names of the agents the CIA plans to eliminate. He threatens to release his uncut copy, and Brackett offers to make him head of his own department, but Matt declines. As forlorn Matt watches the moon landing play on a local television, looks into the camera on the last second, Creedence Clearwater Revival's Fortunate Son plays over America, celebrating the Apollo 11 landing. There you have it. Says many of the actors, including 5 leads, use their real names and are shown in the end of the credits as himself and herself. Production was in Toronto, Houston, and Washington, D.C., starting in June of 2014. The NASA scenes were shot on location. To get permission, Johnson told them he was making a student documentary. Additional scenes were accomplished through liberal application of newly permissive fair use laws. of 62 surveyed critics gave the film a positive review. The average is 6.5 out of 10. Metacritic gave it 69 out of 100 based on 18 reviews. Variety made a Peter DeBruge of Variety wrote, Matt Johnson and Owen Williams' wild, borderline illegal stunt delivers big time on a crazy premise. John DeFore of Hollywood Reporter called it a likable, if not always convincing fantasy that gets much mileage from its period feel. Annie Kaufman of Screen Daily wrote that the film comes across more as a rambling lark than a tightly conceived film. There's a number of things about awards, and won the Kingston Canadian Film Festival 2017 People's Choice Award. Bet you didn't know that, did you? All right, with that, you've heard the description of the film, a little bit about the background and the story and what it was all about. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and take check-in. You can come with your call sign name and where you're transmitting from, and we'll get into the meat of it. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'll take check-in. So please come now with your call sign, your name, and did you see tonight's film, Operation Avalanche?
November 5 Sierra, Quebec Alpha, Ron, beautiful downtown Dallas.
November Victor 5 Foxtrot, Virginia. I did see this movie.
WB5OZL, Brenda, I did see the movie.
AC5DL, Dave, yes, I saw the movie.
This is Whiskey 5, Bacon, Lettuce, Tomato, W5BLT, Bell? Yes, I did see the movie.
Okay, let me go ahead and get those folks checked in. We've got Ron, N5SQA, over in Dallas. Hey, Ron, did you see the film by chance?
Evening, Tom. No, I did not, and it's really odd for me to be here this early, but hi, hello.
All right, well, one of these days we'll get you to do your homework and we'll get you to talk about the film. I think you would have liked this one. Next up is Virginia, MD5F. She saw it. WB5OZL, Miss Brenda, yep. She saw the film AC5. I wrote AL, I think it's DL. Yes, it's DL, I know that. Dave, yes, he saw the film. And W5DLT, Bill, Mr. Bacon, Lettuce, and Tomato, he did see the film. Anyone else want to check in? Please come now with your call sign name. Did you see tonight's film, Operation Avalanche?
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. This is Tony in Dallas, temporarily on Echolink.
Okay, I got Tony, NT5TM, over on Echolink. I assume you saw the film. Tony, did you see the film?
Well, I do intend to finish it, but for now I've seen about half of it. NT5TM.
All right, very good. Glad to hear it. And I was remiss. I did not ask for Echolink. Mostly everybody's checked in, but I'll go ahead and ask. Anyone on Echolink would like to check in, please come now.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Delta Sierra, Billye and Sherman on Echolink. I did not see the film.
Okay, and we've got KFI PDS, Miss Billye, as she did not see the film, but she is here. People who did not see the film can sometimes get called on and asked would they want to see this movie. And then we've got the conspiracy theory element this evening and the Stanley Kubrick element, so there's plenty of opportunities to talk about those topics as well. So we'll just go ahead and get started. Ron, I know you didn't see it. You said good evening and thank you for dropping by. If you have anything you want to add or questions, or I may call on you randomly just to see if you're out there, by all means do a break and check in. So we'll start with Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, you're first on the runway. What did you think about the plot for our fine film this evening from KE5 ICX?
Okay, thank you, Tom. Well, I'll start out by saying that, first off, I'm absolutely not a moon landing denier. This movie came out in 2015, 2016, and the topic has gotten more and more popular and more prevalent in the past decade, and the legend about Stanley Kubrick being somehow involved with a fake moon landing is more and more joked about and spoken about. So it's kind of topical, especially in the last year and a half or so, where we have now, especially me, have gotten into the habit of finding the 2001 angle every week if I can. I won't try to make it up, but this one you can't deny that there's definitely that side to things. So the plot of this overall I found confusing and difficult to follow because there is the modern thing now of letting everything be its own exposition and trying to kind of come off as real, especially in this type of story where every frame of this is supposed to be shot by a documentarian. I don't think that aspect of the plot is very realistic because I have a degree in film, and it would have been very, very difficult and expensive for whoever shot this to be shooting all the time and shooting and zooming in on people from across the room and somehow hearing everything they're saying, especially with late 1960s technology. Even if they worked for the government, it would have been even if they had an unlimited budget for film and cameras and equipment and really nice microphones, that aspect of the plot was not realistic to me at all, especially the car chase scene where there's a guy with the cameraman is in the back seat of a car that's being shot at, and all the windows are blown out, and somehow neither of the people in the car are getting shot at close range by people in another car that you can see easily. And somehow the guy just keeps filming, and I guess he's got a Nagra running with sync sound going, unless he's using a CP16 camera, with the built-in sound head, but all of the cameras I saw looked like Airflex cameras. So without me being a pedantic nerd about filmmaking in general, made that very hard for me to believe. It was funny to me that the plot of the movie mirrored the guerrilla film tactics actually used to film in the MCS at Johnson Space Center. There's a lot of things that have been filmed there, and it was obvious that that was actually where they filmed the mission control room scenes. So that was kind of an interesting thing. I did read the Wikipedia on this because it was very interesting to me. I, of course, loved the part about the guy being obsessed with Stanley Kubrick, and they didn't do the conspiracy of having Stanley Kubrick actually direct the moon landing, but they did have that they were going to spy on him and figure out how he made 2001 while he was making it, which how could they know how good it was going to be, you know, if he was still making it. But the guy obviously liked Stanley Kubrick. He had Stanley Kubrick posters, and he was running a copy of Dr. Strangelove while he was on the phone with people. And then the montage of him trying to get hold of Stanley Kubrick was pretty funny. And then them going on the set of 2001 was really funny, too. The timeline there is problematic because they showed scenes of different parts of the 2001 shoot that were not all going on at the same time. And they showed it all. They showed Shepperton Studios, which is where they did shoot the monolith scene, but that's, and the moon, that's the main scene they shot at Shepperton. The rest of it was shot at Borehamwood. But I'm also a 2001 nerd, so y'all just bear with me here. But overall, it was really funny, and I thought the whole montage of them showing how they did it with the Blue Danube playing in the background was hilarious. I thought overall the plot was funny in places. Other places it was over the top, unbelievable, but I think that was it was supposed to be a farce. It was supposed to be played really broad. I read the Roger Ebert review of this, and I thought he would like it more since he's a roaring 2001 fan. But he did not like this movie very much because he was wanting it to. But you know, he lived through this time period, so he wanted it, I think, to be more accurate to what he remembered, and also just more plausible. But the plot was overall kind of confusing, and it was hard to figure out what was going on, much less figure out whether it was plausible. And I just thought the whole take on it was, you know, funny. They go in NASA trying to find a mole, and then they discover something else, and they're like, well, we can help with this because we're faking making a film because we're filmmakers, so we could actually help them make this moon landing so we can, you know, show the Russians up. I would like to go watch it again because I think it would be helpful. I even read the synopsis of it and found that confusing, but I think it would be helpful for me to go back and watch it a little closer. We're always online commenting while we watch it, and then the 2001 stuff was real distracting for me because I loved it. And I'll have more to say on that later because I've already done some digging on that. So anyway, plot was, you know, funny in places. It was hard to follow. It was action-packed. It was unrealistic from a filmmaking standpoint, funny from a 2001 nerd standpoint, and I'm going to have to be objective and biased at the same time, basically. My biases are very 2001 centric, and my objectivity says kind of confusing, could have been more tight and easy to follow, but overall just kind of fun to watch. Back to net in V5F.
Okay, thank you, Virginia. I love your comments when you get into the detail. You even know the camera types and everything. That's going to a new level of nerdness. I love it. I love your comments. And as we know, 2001 is probably, I think everybody who's ever been on this net, that is their favorite science fiction film, bar none. if not that, at least the most respected science fiction film probably ever made. Okay, next up is Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda, your thoughts on our plot for our film, Operation Avalanche from 2016. Go right ahead from KE5 ICX.
This is WB5OZL. I agree with Virginia. It was hard to follow and hard to understand. It was hilarious in some places, and having, being older, having lived through that, I love the cultural references, the hairstyles and clothes and cars and all that. That was pretty fun. But it just seemed implausible, being shot at and you're just going to sit there and watch, and let's make a documentary. Let's get into a top secret facility. Just say, oh, we're going to make a movie about y'all. I'm not buying that at all. And they were making their movie based on what really happened on the moon. It's like, how did they know? Okay, let's leap off the steps. It's like, but that's what happened. And the footprint was way too similar. It's like way before all this happened, they seemed to know what was going to happen. I don't know when moon landing deniers first came around. So, as my grandfather, the night he was there, I watched it with some relatives. He declared it a hoax at that time, so he may be the original moon landing denier, but he was an idiot. So, and I'm sure I'm adopted. I don't know why these proliferate, because everywhere you can find rebuttals to everything people say about the dual shadows and the flag, and it's like, why don't you do some research before you spout your mouth off? I just think moon deniers just make themselves look really stupid, and the thing that baffles me is the occasional person you meet who actually has an education and is otherwise bright, but they come up with all these ideas of how it could be faked, and like 400,000 people could keep a secret like that. I'm just amazed that anybody would buy into that. Yeah, and not just once, but we did it several more times. We faked it. Just an unbelievable story. Yeah, I loved all the 2001 references and Kubrick references, the posters and the movies. Obviously, the people making this movie were big Kubrick fans, and so am I. So that was fun. All right, back to net, WB5OZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Yeah, I got some comments on that too coming. AC5DL, Dave, welcome back. You've become a regular. What did you think about the plot for our fine film this evening from KE5 ICX?
Well, good evening, Tom. This is AC5DL, and welcome or greetings to all on the net. In terms of a plot on this movie, I thought it was entertaining, albeit it was confusing and a little bit tedious at times. I can confirm, or I guess agree with some of the other comments made. It was interesting because it was kind of made as a lost film type of scenario where for authenticity they made it look like 1960s 16 millimeter film, and I liked Virginia's aspects on that because I also did a little bit with cinematography in the past, and also noticed there were Aeroflex cameras in this. So when I was watching it, one thing I noticed was that although the video portion of it had that grainy feel of the 16mm film, the audio and contrast was so much better than it should have been, because I'm basically used to the audio being an optical track on the side of the film, and when that's recovered with a photo tube, it just has noise in it, and yet all the audio in this was much better, so that kind of took away a little bit of the authenticity of it for me. But in terms of the plot, it was interesting because there was, I guess, the salesman character Matt Johnson in this. He was the charismatic leader, so to speak, of this four-man team of CIA student agents who were put on this mission to try to find this mole that was giving secrets from NASA to the Russians. And in the midst of that, they discovered that NASA really can't land a spacecraft on the moon, so Matt Johnson goes on this spree to create a new mission that they're going to basically fake this moon landing. And he goes off and creates a fake new mission and takes out his X-Acto knife and creates fake documents and convinces the other people in the crew that he's working with that this is all legit when it wasn't. And then while they're working on it, his boss comes in and says, "What are you doing?" And in which case the other members like Owen Williams and all become kind of flabbergasted that he had started all this. But anyhow, the plot goes on and it gets more and more interesting. They, like some folks mentioned, they go off and discover Stanley Kubrick's technique for filming a background, putting different objects in front of a film background that they project, and they start working in that aspect, and they build their own lunar lander, which looked pretty good. But there were some entertaining things in this, like the car chase. You know, that was very entertaining, where they're chasing each other around, being shot at. But anyhow, there's some more stuff I'll say for later on, but those were my thoughts about the plot. I thought it was actually entertaining for what he did and worked with. I thought it was pretty well done, although it did have its flaws. So with that, back to net. This is AC5DL.
Very good. Thank you, Dave. Next up is Bill, W5TLT. Bill, what did you think of the film from 85 ICX?
Well, first I have to say that I had a blast trying to keep up with the comments on the messenger group. I don't do Facebook a whole lot sometimes because the accessibility changes with the screen reader and things like that, but it was a lot of fun. I watched it twice. I was kind of confused in some parts, so I'm glad it wasn't just me. Sometimes I don't know if it's the vision loss that I have or the movie. So I think that answers that question, because as several people have pointed out. I didn't expect the car seat. That was kind of a surprise. I couldn't tell what happened at the end. and so I'll have to read the spoilers. I like the movie. It's not the worst thing we've watched, I don't think. And I kind of like I was going to save this for the third part, but I kind of like the music. I've always been sort of partial to that. My dad loves CPR, so that was kind of cool. And then Walter Cronkite, of course, and the news about the landing. I've always been fascinated with the moon landing, and just kind of disappointed that we don't have anything permanent up there. And it's always interesting to read the conspiracy theories and why we never went back and things like that. So it was a fun kind of movie, but yeah, I was a little lost in some areas. But again, it was fun to hear everybody comment last night, but I realized it was very hard to keep up with the screen reader. So I kind of had to make a decision to watch the movie and then go back and read the comments. Yeah, I think that's about it. To you, Tom, W5FC.
Hey, thank you, Bill. And yeah, you're right. I think everybody's in kind of agreement. There was a kind of a jumble, and it did get rather confusing at times. I partially read the synopsis so I could kind of collect my thoughts, because we just watched it last night, and there were some parts that didn't make sense. And sometimes it is, as Virginia said, that when we watch, there's a number of us that watch these films on Friday evening at 8 o'clock, separately, but together we post little things back and forth, as you well know, and you're part of it. And so sometimes we get a little distracted with the film, so going through the discussion or the narrative over on Wikipedia helps to bring it together, but even still, film was still confusing. All right, next up is Tony, NT5TM. He's temporarily on Echolink. He might actually be on a real radio now. We'll find out. Tony, you saw part of the film. What do you think? Is this one for you? And what was your reaction to the plot? Okay, I'm checking Echolink. I don't see him there, so maybe he has wandered off or got disconnected. I'll come back to him in a little bit. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and call on Billye. I know she's still there. Yes, she's still there. KF5PDS. Billye, did we go to the moon or not? From KE5 ICX.
Great, thanks, Tom. I'm intrigued by the comments, so I think I will give this one a watch. It's always interesting to hear people's takes on things, and I did not know Virginia had a film degree and studied film. I thought that was really interesting and very insightful comments. But yeah, I'm intrigued, and I would like to see it, so I will put it on my list. And again, thanks to everyone who are commenting tonight. I'm really enjoying listening to the net. I don't have anything to add, really, so I'm just going to sit here and listen. So thanks for allowing me to check in and to give some input. So I'll return it to you, Tom. Back to net, KF5PDS.
All right, well, it's always a pleasure having you on here. I'm glad you stuck around for the net tonight, and thank you, as always, for your monthly contributions for Skynet. It's always appreciated as net control, and you always have interesting topics, too, which is really fun. Okay, well, I'm at the bottom of the list, so I'm going to go ahead and ask for additional check-ins, and Tony, if you're out there, you can recheck as well. Anyone else want to check in, please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see tonight's movie, Operation Avalanche from 2016?
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, now on RF.
Kilo Bravo 9, 0 Oscar Kilo, Sean Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this film.
All right, we got Tony back, and the usual suspects have now all checked in. That's okay, Sean, I got you checked in. Okay, Tony, you're up. NT5TM, your thoughts on the plot from KE5ICX.
Good evening, Tom. Yeah, I want to agree with Virginia and others that without the Wikipedia summary, I would be lost even at the halfway mark here. It's just the style of this movie that important plot points are often delivered in muffled incidental dialogue, and so it's hard to, it's hard to follow. I'm really glad of the summary. I, too, was also distracted by the weird contrast between the way they ran all of their footage through, some sort of effect to make it look grainy. But yet the audio is impossibly good. I am in a project to digitize old family reel-to-reel tapes, and from 1968 and 69, and they don't sound like that. They're just not that perfect, and especially if you're standing 30 feet from somebody without a boom operator, it just doesn't happen. So I do want to watch it. I may even have to try to make notes of who some of these people are. I'm going to try to finish it, but it made me think of the 80s comedy Spies Like Us, because these filmmakers seem to be like the bumblingest spies who, kind of accidentally stumble into something and perhaps spoil their boss's plot. So, heck, at least that comedy was very easy to follow. I may watch that tomorrow, too. NT5TM, back to net.
All right, very good. Thank you, Tony. Let's see, my comments on all of this, just a few. First off, as far as the methodology to use the overall look and feel of the film as a documentary, we've seen these things before, and we know for a fact, I think we've seen a couple of films like this, so the aliens coming and all that, and the constant video filming in that particular movie made no sense. Nobody's going to be standing around, even though they had multiple cameras, nobody's going to be running that continuously, especially during the action, and in our case, in this most recent film being, shot at, or in the previous film, whose name I cannot remember, the aliens doing peekaboo stuff, and people carrying the cameras around and running away while still carrying the cameras, and the cameras everywhere. That doesn't work. And then, of course, you mentioned the sound, which is very true. Why would the sound be so good? Well, if we had the sound the way it should have been, it would have been like one of our worst movies of all time, with the sound being illegible or distant and very difficult to hear. The picture in that style, that was what they were selling us on. That was difficult enough to have to watch, but then having the audio added into it would probably have made the movie unwatchable. So you have to take some artistic license with some of these things in order to get through it. Now, why did they do it through the whole thing? Well, because they wanted to insert themselves into classic old footage from the 1960s. We have them in Mission Control. We have them with Stanley Kubrick. Those were... that stuff was drawn directly from NASA footage, from the NASA stuff, and then there was some documentary stuff done on 2001, and that appeared, and that, I believe, was done on 16 millimeter. So it wouldn't make sense to have a high-quality in those scenes where they're inserted, you needed to have it at the quality that it worked at. So no, they were not making a high budget film. They were making essentially what they were masquerading as a student film almost. So they couldn't do that. So in the end, I will give them credit because the audio quality actually was quite good, and we always give them credit for having good audio quality, even though it wasn't supposed to be there in this particular film. Now, as to the plot and the fact that they faked the moon landing, there were a couple of parts that I thought were positive that I liked about it. They had gone to the moon on Apollo 8, so they had a functional command module. That made sense. But the lunar module was not. They showed pictures of just the command module or drawings of the command module in orbit when they're talking, as though they did not launch with a lunar module. I would think that they would launch with a lunar module because everybody would see it. They just would have to dump it on the far side of the moon or something. I don't know. And they'd have all that other footage they'd have to have, like the rendezvous and docking and the undocking and all that stuff that you would get for a real moon landing. If you're faking it, that'd be very difficult to do, even with models. Of course, Stanley Kubrick could have done it, I suppose, but he wasn't involved, so as far as we know. Let's see, what was I going to say? The fact that they had data that they were pulling off of tapes or something from the simulations that they were doing. They had hundreds and hundreds of hours. Who's going to put all that stuff on? They got to do reel-to-reel, and they've got to have a bunch of people that are running the simulator in order to make that happen. And they're not going to tell anybody. They're going to fake it so that the mission control people don't know. There are a lot more than just those few people in that room that have to know what's going on, as well as satellite downlinks, and that stuff is piped through back to mission control. Now, they could have, I suppose, sent it to the command module and then back, but then there'd be an uplink that people would have to control as well, and that would have to be done from multiple places throughout a rotating Earth. Sorry, folks, it's really hard to fake a moon landing. It really is. And the fact that we've got the command lunar modules there, that tells you everything you need to know. Now, back to one other thing. The claim was that we could not land on the moon before 1969. Okay, we'll buy into that, but Apollo 12, the next mission, landed in November of 1969, so they would have made the goal by then. So if we assume that they wouldn't have made it on Apollo 11, which would they do? Would they say, we're going to delay the Apollo 11 mission till later into the year and then do this? Or because, we've had delayed missions before, I suppose that could have happened. Gemini program had delayed missions all the time. The Apollo program had a 2-year stand down. So I don't know. Could they have done that and still done their fake thing? I know it was an opportunity and a circumstance, and they did it anyway, but they couldn't have gotten away with it because they had Apollo 12 that came a few months later. Who did that one, since they burned all the sets? So we got that little problem as well. Now, the way you could fix that is if they'd hung around and done Apollo 12, suppose, or delayed Apollo 11, that would have been a fine, because when Apollo 13 came along, you didn't land on the moon, and you had a good almost 2 years between that, from Apollo 12 until Apollo 14, and so that could have been the first actual landing, I suppose, because that would have taken you into the 1970s. So just some things to think about, nothing important, it's just a mental exercise. None of it's probable, it doesn't make any sense. But I will tell you this, I have some folks down here that I see that believe that it was all faked, and conspiracy theory nuts. But know. Maybe it's the weather down here. I don't know. Okay. Well, with that, let's go ahead and go back up to the top. I'll ask Ron. He may or may not be there. He's out and about usually and makes an appearance and disappearance, but he always says hi when he's going by. But let me ask him, Ron, N5SQA, if you're out there, what do you think? Did we land on the moon, or was it a hoax from KE5 ICX?
Thanks, Tom. I am still here. That's odd. I'm enjoying the conversation. I personally believe we landed on the moon, and that's as far as I'm going to go. I want to get back to hearing you guys talk. N5SQA.
Okay, thanks. That would be good. I do have a question. Sean, I know this sounds terrible, but did I get you in on this last round? I was so busy thinking about what I was going to say. Did I mess up and forget you?
Yeah, this is KB9, that's okay. Yeah, you just skip over me, but I understand.
I had my little check marks here, and I thought, I don't remember him saying anything about it, so I did skip over you. So go ahead, your comments from KE5 ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9, that's okay. It's quite all right. This movie, actually, I tried not to read the synopsis or, any information, any reviews before going into the movies. Of course, I've already seen it, but I, of course, haven't seen this one. So I was actually kind of a little disappointed to start with, because I thought we started out, obviously it looked like they were going to try to find the spies, and I thought, okay, this is going to be maybe an interesting spy thriller, and then it turned out to be conspiracy. I don't believe in the conspiracy theory, so it went in a direction I didn't expect, and it really, to me, it took away from being a more serious movie. I didn't realize maybe it's supposed to be kind of a comedy, but it's like you start out with you got these two idiots out of college, and the main guy was completely a bumbling idiot, and I just don't buy that he would have gotten into the CIA to even start with. So that was kind of my first problem with this movie. I do realize the CIA does sometimes get people in professional fields to help out certain situations, but it sounds like these guys are supposed to be real CIA agents. They definitely didn't act like it. So that was the first problem I had with it. And then, obviously, I'm not a big fan either of films. Essentially, we were watching a film of them making a documentary, then they were making a film of them making the documentary. So that kind of got strange. Even other parts I found a little unbelievable, was just like when they were filming the director through the window, and, of course they told him, and, he didn't seem to get mad about it. I can pretty well guarantee you if you did that in real life, or sneaking and filming the director secretly, you would be out of the CIA pretty doggone quick. So I just don't buy the logic behind a lot of this film, and I do agree with the comments that you came up with, Tom, on this, that they missed, and then also Virginia brought up a lot of really good flaws with their plot as well, and I agree with all those. It's just, to me, this thing was pretty full of holes, and I just didn't buy it as a comedy either. I was just kind of really disappointed in this one, because obviously I was hoping for something a little better, being a fan of the Apollo missions and space and all that. This was, was just kind of disappointing. And then, trying to make it retro, that part, I wish they kind of hadn't, to be quite honest. We get it, it's supposed to be, like it's live back then, but to me, it didn't really add anything to the film. The other thing is, I don't think they really had a lot of content, to be honest. Because if you notice, they wasted a lot of time just showing the guys running around and looking, just random shots of them just even getting to the space station and, or space station, but launch area, and just a lot of them just goofing around. And that was a good 30 minutes of this movie. So I'm not really sure they had a lot, to be quite honest, to do on this. So, yeah, overall, I was kind of disappointed with this one. I'll send it back to that. KB9S, okay.
Yeah, I noticed that as well. I think they had a lot of filler because they didn't have enough for the plot, or maybe they didn't have enough money to do a more. I don't know. They were limited a bit by the premise, and to keep it semi-believable that maybe that's the only way they could do it. Because I don't know. It's just interesting. It is a low-budget film of sorts, so we know that those films have a tendency to. The expense dictates where the script goes and how long the film is and what they do and all of that. We've seen several cases where the film is just totally padded out with erroneous material because that's what was already filmed, that's what they had, and they couldn't afford to finish the film with, the needed scenes. We've had more than one film like that. I don't know if this is one of them. It didn't show up as that. I personally think they just didn't have enough in the way of a plot. And if they did, there's more and more holes in the plot as you go because it just is too easy to disprove the conspiracy theory. One of the comments that I was going to make, and I didn't, is that, right up until the guy hung himself, I thought this is kind of a neat little comedy thing. And I thought that kind of sucked, and it kind of took the air out of the sails, wind out of the sails, because I thought overall it is kind of a comedy. And if anybody remembers the old Get Smart series, the bumbling agent, Maxwell Smart, I suppose that could be likened to that in this film. Although I don't think the filmmakers are old enough to even know that who Maxwell Smart was or had seen any of the episodes. But even still, it was entertaining. I thought. Very enjoyable. All right. Let's go back up to the top again. Sorry about that, Sean. And let's talk about the characterization. We'll start with Virginia, MV5F. What do you got on characterization from KE5ICX?
Okay, I've got lots to say in round 3. I'll try not to say too much then, and I'll try to bite my tongue on that stuff right now and just talk about characters. But I must say I was listening to an interview with a writer today, and in his latest book, he actually broke a bunch of his rules of what not to do when writing a book and writing a story, a novel. And it turned out that his novel was very good and very popular, and every rule he broke was basically the exception proving the rule. And I feel very strongly on that with films about films, especially made by young filmmakers. And I was a student filmmaker once, and it really happens a lot that student filmmakers don't know much about life yet, and all they know is film school, because that's where they are at the time, and they end up making films about making films. So if you're going to do that, you better be able to bring it, and it better be good. And they had a pretty good premise here for, maybe why they would be filmmakers and all that kind of stuff. But the characters were unbelievable as people working for the CIA, for sure. The main guy who was the ringleader, he was kind of a goof, and it was kind of, I don't know, it was, you had the guy behind the camera, so it's hard to really feel who that guy is as a character, and the guy running the show just was, I don't know, I wanted to like him more than I did, and that's always the problem. When a story can be funny, there can be lots of humor, and the humor in this I found was mostly with the intertextual references of space things and science fiction things that I really know, and I know the whole joke now about Stanley Kubrick having something to do with a fake moon landing, which I don't believe, but I think it's kind of a funny, it's kind of a funny idea, because I do think he's a good director who was very good at special effects. So yeah, my problem with the characters was that the ones that were supposed to be funny weren't really very funny, and when they were funny, it was mostly just because I thought the joke, the references were more funny, and the little montage about them showing everything, how it all worked, and going to the 2001 set, that just made me laugh because I just love that movie so much and the way they did it. I'll comment on how they did it in the last round, but yeah, and then the other problem I had is the actual period feel of this overall was, apart from it being unbelievable that they filmed every single second of everything that was happening, even things you wouldn't want anyone to find out about. So that makes them dumb. Oh, let's film us doing something that we don't want anyone to find out about. Let's just make hundreds and hundreds of feet of evidence, so that means they're just not very smart characters. But the other problem I had was in the 60s, that was a couple generations ago now, and people not only dressed a certain way and had certain hairdos, they actually had different mannerisms, and they talked differently. People spoke with a very different sounding accent and cadence, and I always get frustrated with period pieces that are in the recent enough past that we have tons of video and film and public domain footage of these kind of people and their mannerisms and how they dressed and their accents, and people don't seem to make enough of an effort to really pull that off. So just their dialect and just the way they talked and the way they acted, and even some of their hairstyles didn't work for me as far as just fitting and working and being believable as them being really from the 60s. The color, the tone of the film stock and the graininess of it, or the filters that they ran their footage through to make it look that way, and some of they went overboard with some of the the dropouts in the sound and some of the scratches on the film and all that. They went a little out with that, but the people themselves. And then the other problem is it can be hard to, you look at a room full of guys in that, it can be hard to tell them apart. They're all wearing black pants and white short sleeve shirts and skinny ties, and they all have the same, buzz cuts, and they're all smoking a cigarette, and so that's tough enough, but now you got to make your characters kind of, be able to be told apart from each other, and I had some trouble with that because of everything was moving around, and it was the sort of, documentary, handheld style, and then all the dialogue sounded perfect except for the parts you really needed to hear, and that was usually the exposition stuff, so that got a little old. But the characters themselves, I think, them and their arguments with each other and their fights and all that, I think could have been funnier or more poignant if we had been able to figure out kind of what kind of people they were, or if we just liked them more. I think the acting was fine. A little over the top. You couldn't tell sometimes whether it was supposed to be a comedy or whether it was supposed to be serious, and there's some characters that are like super serious and have zero humor to them, and some that are just kind of wacky, like the main guy, and then the whole 2001 sequence was kind of humorous. And anyway, it just, I had the same problem I often have, which is write a story where we care what the characters want. What do they want? Why do they want it? And how can we? What makes us root for them? And that was lost here with the characters. The acting was fine. All that was overall was fine, but just some of the nuance of the 60s was not present in their acting either. Back to net in V5F.
Interesting. Good comment. Next up is Brenda, WD5OZL. Same to you. What do you think of characterization?
This is WB5OZL. Well, I think they kind of hit the mark, hapless nerds. Yeah, I don't know who these people were, why they used their real names. That was kind of weird. But in many ways, I thought they did a pretty good job. They were believable as these kind of people. So, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. They held these people down pretty good, I thought. But for the most part, I didn't like any of them, and it was a little hard to relate. They weren't really. I didn't want to be friends with them. I'll just say that. All right, that's all I'm going to say. Back to that. WB5OZL.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. Next up is Dave, AC5TL. Dave, what do you think of characterization?
Okay, thank you, Tom. In terms of characterization, this was back in the 60s, and being the old guy that I am, I remember some of those times. I mean, yes, I was still a young lad during those years, but I still have recollections of a lot of the things in this movie, the way the people dressed, the cars, I mean, I even saw one Chrysler car in there that I remember that my parents owned, so the posters on the wall, those were entertaining. So the motif of it was interesting to me, just seeing those kind of things. And of course, you look at the people working in mission control, and they're all in white shirts with thin black ties and all of that type of stuff, So, that brought it back. And then, of course, in the car chase scene, you see Matt Johnson, the main character, and he's trying to get away from the other car, and he's wrestling with a tree-on-the-tree transmission in this car, and that was entertaining. So that brought a little bit to life for characterization to me. But then, there were other things in it that also sort of got into techniques and technology. So I'm kind of thinking of those things now when I'm thinking of characterization. So it's, as an example, when they were filming the fake moon landing, one of the challenges they have with the helmets that the astronauts wear is, of course, they have this big visor, and it's convex. So it has a wide area of reflected view on it because it has that gold mist on the glass or the plastic. So it gets a wide angle of view of reflections, and Matt Johnson is making this comment, is that me in there, or what is that in his helmet? And of course, they have to figure out how to deal with this. And at one point, you see them manipulating the backgrounds, like they're literally taking a pair of tweezers and moving the moon over, or I'm sorry, the Earth to a different area in the picture. So it just brought to light that back in those days there were no software programs for being able to correct those kind of things. They had to take an X-Acto knife or something and take these things out, or move a cutout image of something into place. And nowadays, that's so much different with graphic design programs, and I've had a little bit of experience experimenting around with those in my retired life now. So as an example, if you wanted to put somebody else's face on the front of a visor like that, you could just take that face and move it into place and drop it in. So where they show it being done with tweezers, it's very easy now to be done with a software program and put right into place. So just an example of how things have changed. So anyhow, I guess that's all I can think about with characterization. So AC5GL, back to net.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Next up is Bill, W5BLT. Bill, what do you think about characterization from KE5ICX?
Thanks, Tom. I don't know that I have a problem with the characterization or characters, but I don't know that I really felt anything for them, except maybe Walter. I used to watch Walter Cronkite as a kid, and it's always fun to go back and listen to, for me anyway, listening to the news broadcast. And of course, being a kid in the 70s and then remembering his last show. So I'm going to go with Walter Cronkite on the character that I liked, even though we only saw a couple minutes, if that, maybe a minute or something. But I don't, these guys with the CIA and everything, I'm not really attached to them, so I didn't even, I missed it when you were talking about I think the one guy got shot, and then another guy, hung himself. I missed that part, but I don't know that I really felt anything for these characters. So yeah, it I can't say that they were bad actors, because I don't think they were. It's just that the script never really, I don't think you got really attached to these guys at all. And not knowing the background of the characters, you just kind of, well, okay, that's it. So usually when you get attached to characters, you watch the movie again. And not one of those, I don't think, that I would watch again. It was just fun, though, to participate, as always, in this net, and then also figuring out being involved in Friday night messaging. But yeah, the characters, I just didn't really feel anything for. Kind of there. And with that, I will yield the balance of my time in the third round. W5BLT.
Hey, thank you, Bill. Next up, Tony, NT5PM. Same question to you about characterization.
Well, I have to say that at the point where I am in the movie, I'm not very engaged with them. I can tell them apart, although I can't remember their names. But I'm just not getting sucked into wanting to follow their story and know how their life turns out. So, they're not indistinguishable, but not engaging. NT5TM.
Ooh, that was quickie. Okay, well, that's fine. Next up is, let's see. Oh, Billye had a comment. KFI PDS, you're up. Your comment, please.
Great, thanks, Tom. Yeah, as I was listening to people, it made me think of another movie, because thinking about this like a moon conspiracy, I agree with Brenda. It's like there's too many people involved to try to pull off a conspiracy like that. So I'm firm in the belief that we went to the moon. But it made me think of Capricorn 1, where they were trying to fake a Mars mission, and one of the scientists, engineers on the mission control immediately pointed out that the telemetry just wasn't ringing true because of the time factor in receiving the transmissions. So stuff like that would easily be spotted as well, because you can't fake physics, to the point where, you can make it realistic, just to fake it. So I was thinking about that as I was listening to people talk about this movie and about faking a moon landing. And I was curious to know if there are people on the call that have seen both movies and have any comparisons between this movie, Operation Avalanche, and Capricorn 1. So I was just curious to hear if anybody had any insights in the comparison of the type and quality and, how it measured up to Capricorn 1. I was just curious. So anyway, I'll throw that back to you, Tom. KFI PDS, back to net.
All right, thank you, Billye. And as far as Capricorn 1, I think Capricorn 1 probably was a little better film, although that one actually was done on the cheap, too. A lot of the 70s films were like that back then. The movie industry was kind of on the skids until Star Wars, and even that was done on the cheap, at least at the time. They just used modern, new technologies that really made it look fantastic, but they had a lot of practical effects. My biggest problem with that film is that they just used props that NASA lent them, I guess, or they found or something, and from the Apollo program, and none of that would have made sense on Mars, so it wasn't very convincing to me. But everything else about it was great, and I loved the aerial scenes, and I think how the astronauts kind of surmised what was going on in that would probably be something they might do. But I think overall, the simple thing to do would have been to just, wipe them out and dispose of the bodies and say they burned up in the atmosphere and left it at that. But, like they talked about in this film, which I think is really a refer back to Capricorn 1 anyway. So, I don't know, it could be right, could be wrong. I don't know. Next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thought on characterization?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I agree with what people said. I don't think the actors themselves are bad. I'm going to kind of blame the director on this, because as it was brought up, they didn't really act or talk like people from the 60s. And it's been brought up by multiple people, and that's true. I mean, they did it. And so I really think that since they all were not acting like that, it had to be they were told not to do that. So, yeah, it is kind of disappointing because, it does kind of take you out of it feeling like it really happened back then. But I don't blame the actors for that. That's just bad director and production there, not to make sure that they did that correctly. Yeah, the characters, I agree with I love the way Tony did about it. Yeah, it's like, they were distinguishable, but I can't remember their names. I didn't really care for any of these people. I felt a little bad for the one best friend, the one that got hung in the end. The poor guy got lied to by his best friend, and then, nearly got killed, shot, and then he does get killed in the end. So maybe a little bit bad for him. But then also too, they never did really tell us in the end. Did the main guy ever really get away, or did they hunt him down? We never find out. But I kind of really didn't care either. Not much to say on that. But yeah, back to the conspiracy thing. I agree with everybody said that. Yeah, it had been impossible to fake it. Because oddly, it wasn't just even NASA running telemetry coming down. Obviously, I literally just seen a thing this week where they showed the Russian research center that where they were receiving and watching the moon landing and receiving our telemetry and decoding it. And I'm sure the Russians would have been more than happy to point out had we faked it. This complex was huge that was dedicated to this. I mean, it was hundreds of people, scientists and people who run the antennas and receiving the data, decoding it, and figuring it out. So yeah, they would have been more than happy to point it out. So anyway, it is a different movie. Can't say that I'd watch it again, but hey, on to the next one next week. Thanks, Tom. Back to net.
All right, very good. Thank you, Sean. My comments brief on this. Characters were, I really did kind of feel like the characters were cartoonish, but I was thinking along the lines, too, is who would the CIA send in to do a film crew, right? Is somebody or people who are familiar with film, perhaps. And by the way, the CIA is an organization that has thousands of people, and only a few of them are agents. Could they have sent somebody in who was, maybe not the best agent in the world, but a great cinematographer? I don't know. I mean, who's to say? But it makes it funnier and more entertaining, the fact that they are somewhat incompetent along the way and playing it by ear. And you got to wonder, even in the CIA, in the secret spy business, spy versus spy, how much of it is like super apt and capable, and other parts are not so much. You got to wonder, which is why Max, Get Smart, was so popular and won, best comedy 3 or 4 years in a row. And the reason why is because it had a little element of truth. It was kind of the incompetency that we view of Washington, D.C., coupled with spy versus spy, and they kind of got away with it. Do we believe any of it? No. Do we find it entertaining? Yes. Is it an allegory over things that happen in real life? Possibly. And is it tremendously entertaining? You bet. So, I don't know. Maybe that falls in that middle ground between lightness and dark, like the Twilight Zone of comedy. Okay, well, we're running out of time, so as usual, I'll go ahead and take you in order on the technical aspects of the film. This may have been where we should have started, I don't know, but let's go ahead and do that. If you have something to say about the film and technical or anything at all, this is your opportunity. Please come to your call, and I'll go down the list in order.
NV5F.
Well, Virginia, you may have the last word. Please go ahead.
Okay, well, I'll start by saying if you have a word to add after my word, I would love to hear some more words. And secondly, I can't help myself, so I will try to keep this to a minimum. I did make notes so that I wouldn't ramble too much. So on technical notes, I did enjoy the scene where the guy was editing things together with the evidence of what was going on, and he was in there on the Steenbeck like feverishly cutting and splicing, and I don't know if that guy really knows how to edit on a flatbed editor, but they made it look like he knew what he was doing. So I enjoyed that. I like to see all the vintage film equipment in here. It brought back memories because I went to film school right before everything started to switch to digital. Digital was this big, crazy pie in the sky thing that only really rich people or editing houses or studios could afford. So we were doing it old school when I was in film school. So I enjoyed that scene. And then I enjoyed the technicality of them talking about how they were going to be sending images back from the moon in black and white at 10 frames per second. They didn't mention that they were also going to be low resolution. They think they were only like, the resolution was only like 320 lines or something. And, and that's a piece of evidence people use to say that footage is suspect because it's so, it is so low res and it's, it's so low contrast and it could, they could use that as an argument, but it doesn't refute everything else that makes it obvious that, we did land on the moon, and I think it is a bizarro time when you're talking to somebody, you actually sound sheepish if you say anything that assumes that we landed on the moon. I grew up when everybody, it was just a fact. We all took it as fact that we landed on the moon, and now it's like you worry about saying it in front of the wrong people. You're afraid you're going to, have an argument or lose a friend over it or something. It's crazy. I actually have a friend. He's one of my former bagpipe students who is a space denier. He's quite a bit younger than I am. And I long for the day when he happens to be at my house and I can schedule it to be at the same time a flight of orbit of the ISS goes over, and I can go out there with my antenna and point it at the ISS and prove to him that space is real. Just by getting a contact through the ISS right in front of him. Anyway, that's all beside the point. Let's see, what else do I have here? Stuff about 2001, I think. In the plot, I thought it was kind of sad that there wasn't actually a reference in the summer of 1968 to the movie actually being on screens, and it would have been funny if they had all gone to see it or something. That would have been kind of cool. I would have thrown that in there. And then, let's see, finally, and this is probably going to be my longest one, so I'm going to reset the repeater one more time. While I was watching the sequence where they went to spy on Stanley Kubrick, I figured out very quickly that all of those scenes that they shot, and they shot them through that little hole in the bag that the camera was hiding in, so it actually, I think, helped them. There wasn't documentary footage shot of the making of 2001. I haven't seen any of it. If there is some, I don't know where it is. There were a lot of Polaroids shot, and there were a lot of photographs made, because Stanley Kubrick was a photographer, and he made a lot of photographs himself, but there were a lot of photographs made during the making of 2001. There was some documentary footage shot for a weird promo thing that Look magazine put out. It was a very odd film. But there weren't just tons and tons of on the set footage shot, and I notice we're back to normal now, so I'll talk shorter. But I noticed that every scene they showed was very familiar, and every single scene they showed was based on a still photograph from one photos. And I don't know how they did it, but I'm thinking they used computers or something to recreate those scenes from those photos. I've actually gone back and clipped screen grabs from the movie, and I've found the matching photos for every single scene. So I think they used those photos as plates, and somehow computer did everything. I don't know if they got somebody to play Stanley Kubrick, or if I don't know how they did it. I'm going to figure out how they did it. But I have found the source photo from every single one of those scenes. And I actually, my friends who do a 2001 podcast, they have a Patreon, and they put out a fanzine every month, and I think this is going to make a really good fanzine article, so I've actually kind of fallen down the rabbit hole on this one, and I think it's going to be really interesting, but I've already gone online and gone into all my 2001 books and found all these photos that the scenes are based from, which is very cool. I'll try to share those as I can on the Facebook thread. Anyway, my last thing that I'm going to say is I think it's kind of ironic that the one thing they got excited about in 2001 for using it for their fake lunar landing was front screen projection, which was only used in the Dawn of Man sequence in 2001. It wasn't even used for the space stuff, so I think that's kind of funny too. Anyway, that's it. I'll leave it there, and everybody have a good night and a better tomorrow. Back to net NV5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia, and thanks for your comments this evening. I think you're going to have some fun with it, too. I think you bring up a very interesting comment when it comes to where there was source. I agree with you. The photographs, those moving scenes, I remember as still scenes as well. But I do also remember some stuff that was filmed, and I'm trying to remember where, and that's not very good because knowing exactly would be better. But I'm going to do a little research myself and see what I can come up with. But I think it is interesting. I'd really like to know more about how they rendered those scenes. That would be a lot of fun to find out. And don't forget, this film came out in 2016. Now, a lot of this is now done with AI today. In fact, there are a lot of videos that go out every day that are fakes that do that now. But back then, and no way in hell, probably even just a year ago, you couldn't do a lot of the things that they did. So, at any rate. Okay, this is what's coming up for next week. I tentatively scheduled the movie Transit from 2018. This one is, I'm not sure you would call it science fiction, although I guess it is. It's sort of a retelling of World War II and Casablanca. It's been compared to Casablanca, but it's got modern sensibility to it, so it has kind of a science fiction feel to it, a surrealistic feel. I'm going to double check that, make sure that that's what we'll be watching. I will send out the notice in the morning sometime with the film ultimately, but I think it probably will be Transit from 2018. So I want to say 7-3. Thank you, everybody, for all your comments. That was great. Good conversation tonight, and I always enjoy this. As I said, I think this is my favorite net, even though there's not a lot to do. It's just watching the film and talking about it. It's kind of fun. So we'll see you next week at the same bat time, same bat station. I don't know. I think I'm going to go to bed. I had a very long day. Oh, yeah, I had a long day. I ran 16 miles this morning. 16 miles, so I'm a little on the tired side. Say 7-3, everybody. Have a good evening. This is KE5ICX. Now clear.